Welcome to another episode of the Founder to Founder podcast. My name is Aaron Spivak, born and raised in Toronto, Ontario, here in Miami, and I've built multiple 7, 8, and 9-figure brands and recently just had the third largest D2C transaction in Canadian history. But today is not about me, because today you get to listen to another incredible story of the founder behind the founder, and we get to dive deep into what it takes to build something incredible. It's not always the tips and tricks, it's how you go about your life. So join us for another incredible podcast at the Founder to Founder. We're live with Adam Klasner. Welcome to the Founder to Founder podcast here in beautiful, sunny Florida. Thank you for coming, man.
Thank you for having me.
There's been a long journey to get to this point. You and I met, I would say, almost 7, 8, maybe 10 years ago. Did you say that?
It's a good question. I'm trying to think about it. When you were wearing that revitalized t-shirt with a backwards hat in the shop, I would say, yeah, probably 8 years ago.
I love that. And so much has happened, which we're going to get into. But before that, tell the world, who is Adam Klasner?
It's a very loaded question, because I think I'm meeting more of myself every single day, every single year. If you ask me today, right now, in this moment, I am a father, a husband, a father of 10, which I think is going to come up today. So I might as well put the cat out of the bag. And I'm an Orthodox Jew and someone who's trying to go out there and spread some light. And I have been an owner and founder of certain businesses in the financial industry, and then moved over into helping men full-time discover who they really are.
No one just falls into the journey of helping men discover who they really are. I mean, I'm sure there's a calling, and there's something to be said about maybe that's what you were destined to do, or at least take part in your life. But what sparked that? You know, where did it start for you that you said to yourself, men in this world need this?
So men needing this was me. That was me. That was me 12 years ago. That was me in my own life, but not knowing that I needed it, because the script of my life was actually pretty decent. I had a good job, like a decent job, working in the financial industry. I had, at the time, 4 kids, and Orthodox Jewish life, devout Jew, whatever you want to call that, and married, living in a home, had bought my first home, and things seemed to be going well. And I think that's what a lot of people like to believe about life, especially when you interact in the day-to-day. It's like, how you doing? Good. I'm fine. But there comes a point in time, I think it comes a point in time for everyone, where we got to challenge the script. It's not just about what on paper looks good, but it's how I feel inside. It's how I'm relating to the life that I have. And something felt for me 12 years ago, like things weren't exactly the way I was looking at them on the outside. There was something, an internal calling, if you want to call it. And I didn't know that. I just had some good friends that were pointing some things out to me and saying, hey, I think you should go work on yourself. I think you should.
That's something crazy to say to someone.
Yeah.
Hey, you got to go do some work on yourself.
Yeah. I was like, and my first response, because, you know, as men, we want to believe that we're secure and we have things figured out, is my first response is, hey, I had a good childhood. I know you guys had messed up childhoods. I know you guys had rough things that happened in your life. I know you're into this. At the time, there was this workshop going on for Jewish men. I know you guys need that in your life, but me, I'm good. So please. But there were 4 of them, and they were hounding me until one of my friends, who wouldn't give up, said, he called me up one day. I was at work, and he says, give me your credit card, and I'm signing up for this weekend. And that was the beginning, the transaction, so to speak, that changed the course of my life forever.
What did you sign up for on that weekend?
What I signed up for was a weekend where I had to face myself. I had to look at myself in the mirror and really challenge the script of what I've been telling myself about how life has been, and all those check boxes where you're like, okay, this looks good, this looks good, this looks good. And then you tell everyone when someone asks you, like, these are all the things that are going on in my life. Life is good. And I had to look deeper. I had to look how I felt about life. And I had to acknowledge certain things that I've been hiding from the world about myself, that I was really internally struggling with, but had really good ways of coping with it.
A lot of people that I speak to about doing the quote unquote, the work, diving in, spending time, money, effort, it's exhausting at times. They simply say, why would I want that? Why would I want to do that to myself? I'm good. I'm fine. I got some boo-boos here and there. Okay. What would you say to that person who's pretty good, like you were? Pretty good. You had a good childhood. Things are good. Why would I go and jump off the bridge right now? I got enough thrill in my life. What would you say to that person who's yet to embark on what it means to get to know themselves on a new level?
I think that when we tell ourselves that we're this way and life is working for us, I think we're stripping a deeper layer of who we really are, which is the person that you are today. And if I look at myself today that I have, and I talked about this, I have 10 kids. It's like, wow, you have 10 kids and you're running a full-time business. And there's times where I was running 2 businesses full-time, and I'm a husband, and I'm a Orthodox Jew who has all the responsibilities of religion. Like, when I look at it today, if I looked at that 10 years ago or 20 years ago, I would never thought that I would be here today, right now. Challenging the script, or challenging the current paradigm that you tell yourself that you are experiencing right now in life, is just because you feel comfortable with what's going on. But there's so many layers to who you are. And I believe every person, every human being has infinite layers. And you got to start to challenge that to develop more of who you are. It wasn't that I was looking for it, because most people aren't looking for it. Most people really feel good about the life that they've built and the comforts that they have. And it's hard to have a person challenge what they've told themselves to be the right path, to like reinvent themselves, to go out there and create more. And it's scary. You know, doing work on yourself is like standing at the edge of a cliff. That's what sometimes doing work on yourself feels like. You have to like almost tell yourself that what I've been doing until now maybe isn't the best version of who I am. And I got to change that. And then I got to show that to the world. And it's vulnerable. It's scary. Vulnerability and owning a certain vulnerability about yourself and what you've been telling yourself is very scary.
And I think the one thing that I'll share for the people listening is, beyond our relationship of me being a 21, 22-year-old working at the juice store, Reviticize, and having you come in pretty much every day and buy a smoothie. And I'm like, this guy's nuts. You were like, what, 31, 32 at the time, a bunch of kids, businesses. You were trying to get in like the best shape of your life. I think you're doing like CrossFit. Like, beyond all of that, my first exposure to any form of therapeutic work or spirituality even was through one of your workshops. And in 2019, for those who are listening, I finally, because it was not the beginning, I finally decided to go. And it was a workshop in Montreal. And I'm sure you remember this. It was a blizzard. The snow was crazy. And I'm not a religious Jew. I am a Jew. I'm a proud Jew, but I'm not a religious Jew. And it was, at the time, like, just that was the segment. There's a lot of religious Jews there, and I was like the odd one out. And had no idea what I signed up for. And looking back, maybe it was a calling, maybe it was someone, you know, transacting for me, or you calling me like, dude, you got to come. But looking back, it was the most transformative 48 hours of my life. And of course, there's the high, which is great. It's fantastic. But there was a practice that happened or that I learned on that workshop that I actually want to do on the podcast with you right now for those who are listening. And before we do it, because a lot of people listening to this are business owners, founders, right? Lior, who's my co-founder in Hush, who also did a workshop. We actually were in the midst, like in the middle of arguably the deepest part of our due diligence to sell our business. And in the deepest part, I think it was August. So this is a few months, few months before we were about to close. We've never met the people on the other side of this deal yet in person because it was like during COVID and stuff. We do a workshop together over the weekend. And on the Tuesday, we go and meet.
So there's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah. So one day off. On the Tuesday, we go and meet the eventual people who buy our business in person for the first time in the scariest boardroom in the world at Deloitte, because it was so big because of COVID. We all had to be 6 feet apart from each other. So imagine how big this room is. Him and I show up in onesies coming off of a workshop. And we sit there nervous as hell. Like I was sweating through my pants. We're all staring at each other. There's cameras all 360 around the room. And if you make like a movement or a sound, the screens, it was a 360 screen, would like zoom in on you. So your face would then be on the screen because it would pick up noise. And the CEO goes, so? And I'm like shaking. And the next words that came out of my mouth, and one of the board members texted me, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, said, "You're not going to believe what they just brought up at the board meeting." And I have no idea why I said this, but I remember looking at them and I say, "Okay, guys, before we begin, we're going to check in." They're like, "What?" I'm like, "We're going to check in." And I was planning on explaining the check-in, which I want you to do, because I want everyone who's listening to this to be able to do this. I tell everyone this, guys, so this is gold. But before explaining it, the CEO goes, "Oh, I know what that is." And the weight of the world fell off my shoulders, because someone who I was looking up to at the highest degree, this guy, arguably one of the best entrepreneurs in the country. The second I said the words check in, he was like, "Yeah, I've been doing that for years." And I was like, wow. And he checked in first. And it ended up being the most beautiful 6-hour interrogation of all time. Because we were able, it was. They were just coming at us, finances, this, they want to do due diligence. So first, explain the check-in. I'd love to do one.
Good.
Because I think it's gold.
Yeah. So I think, just based on what you're saying, it's like how we start something is how we finish it. So you started with a point of vulnerability. So, and what's vulnerability in the end of the day? Vulnerability is me taking off the mask that I'm coming here today with and saying, what's really going on underneath the mask? Where are you generating this experience from? And the most authentic way to understand what that is tap into your feelings. What's my feeling? Because this is, they say, the famous saying in the Kabbalistic works is, say that the mind imagines, the heart or the feelings see, and the soul knows. So the feelings are trying always to create a reality where I can protect myself so I don't have to get hurt. And getting vulnerable is not such a regular day-to-day type thing that we do in this world. We give those scripted answers. Someone says, "How you doing?" You say, "What's up?" And you're like, "Good." And that's it. That's where you meet people. So to come in with vulnerability, to take away the mask and say, "Hey, I want to connect with you on a deeper level. I want to share with you my inner world." That's a very scary place because you don't know if people can handle it. When you took that risk, it was like, "I'm right here with you." Mm-hmm. It's like you went with your feeling and he was like, "I'm right here with you because I've been doing this." And that whole connection piece created an opportunity to do an interrogation while you were connected with him, which is so cool. So a check-in, what's a check-in? A check-in is simply cutting off your head, not in a real way, but in a figurative way, where I'm not interested in this, because the head wants to know and the heart knows. The heart knows everything. It sees the truth. So I want to divorce myself from my head, and I want to check out what's going on under the hood and see, what am I feeling right now? In order to know what you're feeling right now, generally speaking, what we do is we take a breath, because the breath brings you into the body, and this is where the feelings live. This is like, I want to create a certain reality. So I'm going with my head. My head is guiding my reality. It's protecting me. It's looking for any threats. It's looking for any dangers and saying, how do we manage the situation? You know, I came into this podcast and I had all these talking points of what I wanted to say and what I wanted to cover and what I want the world to hear. And then I have to let go of that. And then I have to go into a place of, hey, maybe the reason I'm creating all of those talking points is because really I'm feeling anxious. And why am I feeling anxious right now? So we want to be able to be in tune and understand what the communication of our feelings are, because our feelings are always telling us something. So a check-in is just being with your feelings and then sharing it with someone else. And it doesn't always have to be with someone else. It could be that it's just with myself, so I know where I'm at. Why do we want to do that? Is because everything is being guided by our feelings. Everything in life is being guided by our feelings. So if I'm feeling anxious, I'm going to do way more research, have way more talking points, have way more of what I think needs to be said, because I don't want to meet that anxiety. But what if I don't have to be afraid of meeting that anxiety? Because most of the fear is the fear of the fear itself. And I could just be with it. Now, I know I'm getting a little bit advanced, but let's just say like this. So what do we do with feelings? Well, first of all, it's great when another person on the other side of the table can have a conversation about feelings, because there's a certain support on the other side. When you had that conversation with that guy and he said, I'm checking in, and it was like, oh, wow, there's a connection point over here. It feels safe. I can do this. I don't know how you had the courage in the biggest meeting to be able to do that, but I feel good about what you're saying, and that there was an impact from the weekend. But so I be in touch with the feeling, and sometimes you're going to understand that feeling has nothing to do with the present moment. That feeling has to do with the history of everything that I went through in my life. And the feeling is reminding me of something that's unresolved and preparing me for a threat that might happen to protect myself. So for example, when I was a kid, I was not great at writing speeches. Like I was really bad. I would try to write these speeches, we do public speaking in school. And so what would I do? I would take a speech, I'd write it, half-ass it, and then bring it to my father, and then he would rewrite the whole speech. I would take the speech.
The old ChatGPT.
Yeah, my father is better than ChatGPT. He would rewrite it for me, thinking, hey, I'm being a good father, I'm helping my son. And then I would just be reading the speech. Now, while I was reading the speech, I'm standing in front of my class, and I'm like, my whole body's feeling tension, because it's not me. I'm reading words that aren't mine. So I have to hold back the emotions that I'm feeling. Like maybe someone's going to figure me out and see that I'm a fake, or I don't really feel comfortable in these words. Like I'm forcing myself into these words that aren't mine. And so I felt that, and speeches never came across as natural or flowing. And I always felt like I wasn't a good speaker. I didn't have what to offer. I didn't have something that people can give over and remember, my father was doing the best possible thing that he thought as a father by helping me rewrite the speech.
Right.
But at the same time, he was telling me an internal message about myself. You know what that message was? You don't got what it takes to public speak. That's the subconscious message. Now, so I'm now having that subconscious message that I don't have what it takes to speak. On top of that is some anxiety. And therefore, I need to fit into what he's saying, his words. But I'm feeling that anxiety because they might find me out that I'm really not a good speaker. So I'm trying to guard that by holding all this tension in my body and just giving it over naturally, or as natural as possible. And It hit me on the first workshop, and we're about to run our 75th men's workshop this in 2 weeks from now, in March 21st. And you get together with a group of like 30, 40 men. And I'm about to run my first one because I had been under, someone else who was running it, and I was learning from him, watching the process. And I memorized his speech. So I'm going to give the intro speech on my first workshop, and I'm about to walk out, and I'm feeling anxiety through the roof. Like I couldn't do it. Like I felt so incapable. So I start breathing, and I'm getting in touch that I'm feeling anxious. Well, why am I feeling anxious? Breathe into it. And it brought me back to the memory of, I remember the exact speech. It was about genetics. I was speaking about genetics in class. I didn't know the first thing about what genetics were. I was just like,
you're like, I'm going to give a speech on something right now.
I'm going to give a speech. This is another guy's speech. I'm going back to that moment in time. My anxiety was coming up. Why? Because the anxiety wanted something all the way back then at the speeches. It wanted to know at that point in time that I was good enough to make speeches, that I was good enough to be a public speaker. It wanted to know that I was good enough in general, but I didn't have that validation from the world. I had the opposite. So I'm feeling that anxiety because it's taking me back to that moment that it needs resolve. That's why feelings come up. That's why these feelings that overtake you and you don't know why you're feeling that, it's leading you back to something that's unresolved in your life. So I sat with the anxiety. Before I started the workshop, everyone's like, where's this guy? What's he doing? Where's he going? Knocking on the door. I'm like, I need a minute. And I'm breathing into it. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling this intensity. And I remember that moment. And what did that kid need when he was in grade 7 and he was doing that speech or whatever grade it was? He just needed to know that he's good the way he is. And his father was just trying to help him, and he got this. And he just needs to know that he's okay exactly as he is. So what did I do? I gave that to him. Me today, they would call it inner child work, looked at my grade 7 kid and said, hey, you got this. And you know what? Don't do it their way. Do it your way, because you have what it takes. I ripped up the speech. I went in, I walked in, and I gave the speech of a lifetime. And everyone's like, wow. And it's because I didn't need to fit into someone else's mold and someone else's speech to be good enough. I could be my own person. And so that's an example of, walking through, if you could go through that process where you realize that you're feeling something and you can source, where's all this stuff coming from? Because I want to be aware of where I'm generating my life from. Do you know what I mean by that?
Tell me.
So let's say, for example, a guy goes to the gym and, or a guy does 10,000 push-ups or pull-ups.
In the month of October in 2024, yes.
Let's just say. So I want to be aware of why I'm doing that. Two guys can go to the gym. They can have the same body. They look the exact same, shredded on the outside, strong. They can lift the same amount. One guy hates his body. One guy loves his body. So where am I generating my life from? Now, alignment, where I'm loving myself and I'm loving what's inside me, and it just flows. Life just flows. Life just it feels smooth. When I hate myself and I'm working out, I'm working against myself. I'm fighting against myself. It feels like a burden. It feels like a lot. And so I have to be aware of where I'm generating my life from. And a lot of what you'll find is that people generate their lives from inauthentic and toxic places because they have stuff that's unresolved that they never work through. So they're generating life. They're doing all the right things on the outside, but the script on the inside is saying you're not good enough. If it says you're good enough, then life should just flow. It should be easy. It should be nice. It should be natural. It should be just like, water flowing down a stream.
But you have to constantly check in order to see how you're feeling. So coming back to the check-in.
Sorry, I went on a tangent a bit.
No, but it's perfect, right? That's the end game of a check-in. the result is you cut off the head, you get into the way you're feeling, and you start to understand where those feelings come from. And then if you can work through that, then you can live a more authentic life. That's the end game. That's what we all want. There's no person that I've ever met or that you've ever met that says, no, I want to be the least authentic person in the world. And maybe there's con artists and stuff like that out there, but majority of people want to live an authentic life. But it first comes back to, well, where are you now? How do we check in? Where are you at? Because we're all at different levels. So coming back to check-in, I'm listening to this right now. Take me through, I want to do my first check-in.
Okay. But I want to, what you said is a good idea, is a good point. Like this idea, we all want to be authentic. You never met someone that doesn't want to be authentic. Where does that come from? And I think it's important to address this just before we go into this is, as we're growing up as kids, we have two needs always. They remain consistent throughout our lives. Is we have this need to be authentic and we have this need to be in connection. Now, what happens though, as you're growing up, and because as a kid, like you can't, as a baby, you can't take a baby, you can't throw a baby into a forest and say, go survive on your own. Right. And, go be authentic, go do your thing. You'll die. So a baby is always looking to his support system, his caregivers, his mother, his father, and the family around them, whoever's there for him, as being wired for survival to remain in connection. If you have pure and healthy and unbelievable parents who are fully worked out themselves, they've done a lot of work on themselves, and they don't have an agenda, they don't try to control you, they don't try to tell you how to live your life, but they sort of let you blossom into who you're supposed to become, then you can express the authentic self and remain in connection. But most parents, including myself, are not worked out themselves, so they have expectations on their kids. And they want them to be a certain way. So in the process, a child has a choice. If I'm going to remain authentic, like I have a son, he's 2 years old, and he started saying no. They call it the terrible twos. They're like, oh my gosh, the terrible twos is going to say no all the time. What's he really doing? He's starting to develop an understanding of who he is. So he's developing boundaries. He's saying no, not because he's trying to be rebellious, because he's trying to identify his own boundaries. He's trying to figure out who I am. Remember that authenticity. Mm-hmm. What does a regular parent do when a child says no? You don't say no to me. I'm going to tell you who to be and how to show up. So the child now has a choice: authenticity, connection. 10 out of 10 times they'll go for the connection because they perceive that if they don't, they will die. Wow. It's survival. So what happens? I suppress my authentic self. And I'll do that as long as I perceive that I need you in order to survive. I need my parents, I need my connections in order to survive. As soon as I don't need you anymore, the more pain that you cause me by suppressing my authentic self becomes my distance from you. I no longer see you as needing connection. Now I want to be my authentic self. There's a point where everyone comes to in their life and they say, I want to express, this is the real me. And they go off the path of their family. They go off the path of what their family has told them. They want to carve out their own path because everyone has that need to be authentic, to be their unique expression. Why I came down to the world, who I really am. But we need both in the end of the day. And that's, you're talking about the Founders Club. I know, like, the idea of community is we can't do it alone because we have both those needs. We have to figure out how to balance out both those needs, which is authenticity and connection. So we have this need. It's there. It's part of us mattering in the world. We have a unique expression. We're not like anyone else that's ever been created. All 8 billion people are unique and they have a unique mission. And in order for us to live out that unique mission, we have to stay connected to wanting to be authentic. So it's wired right in there. When those two needs clash as a child, again, I'm going to choose connection over authenticity, which suppresses my authenticity, which ends up causing a certain sense of depression for a lot of people because they've lost touch with who they are. And now it feels like, I don't even know who I am. Like, people will tell you, I don't even know who I am. What brings us back to the authenticity of a person? Feelings. Your feelings are communication of some unresolved stuff. Like I was explaining to you in the past, you need to work through in order to find your way back to yourself. That kid, the me that stepped into that workshop to believe I wasn't good enough to make a speech, I was holding on to that until I can make peace with that process. And it took more times. Like you take that one step, and then you got to keep on taking that step and getting better at it and feeling more confident about it, because you need to build confidence by doing things over and over and over again. Repetition is the mother of skill. You know that. And so it's the same with the feelings thing. Is like, if you're standing at the edge of a cliff, that feels scary. But if you stand on the edge of a cliff once and then you do it again, and you feel okay, like I can stand here, I can be here. Feelings feel like that because for them, it was like death. I'm going to jump off the cliff if I feel my feelings. So now to feel those feelings, even though logically it doesn't make sense why you should be afraid of your feelings, takes a real leap of faith that I'm going to be met with what I need in this. I'm not going to lose connection. And people start to isolate themselves when they be authentic and the world doesn't approve of what they're saying. So it becomes this process of individuation where I'm isolating, and then I got to come back to connection. I need both those needs balanced out, which is why community is huge. Like-minded individuals who are doing the same thing and supporting each other through the same process. So when you're at that table and you're making that business deal and he says, I'm going to check in, the deal was done before the 6-hour interrogation.
Correct.
Because there was a deep connection between the two of you. The more vulnerable you are, the more you're connected to the people that you're in relationship with. That's just the way it is.
And what you would say that in order to have both, or to attempt to have both, because I feel like it's a never ending thing. You can't just like have both and then pack it in the back of your car and drive away. To have both the authentic version of yourself and the connection, you need to check in or do things that connect you to the feelings over and over and over again.
Yeah.
What do you do? And what could you suggest to everyone else?
That piece is called vulnerability, but yeah.
Yeah. Remain vulnerable, but it's easy to do it once. You see this all the time. I've done a handful of workshops. I've done all kinds of work. And unless you keep doing it, it kind of fades away. Like you have like a new baseline. Yes, I do agree. Like you learn something new, you put that tool in your toolbox and you go away, but you don't use a tool in a while, you get kind of rusty. It's like when I played hockey for 20 years, but if you give me a stick and a pair of skates right now, I'd probably be better than someone who's never played, but I ain't going to be what I was. It's been a while. I haven't used it in a while. So what would you say is a good, potentially daily practice if possible, but at least a couple of times a week practice for people? And it could be checking in, and we should do one.
We're going to do one.
Is it checking in first? Let me ask that. Is it checking in? Is that going to help people connect to their emotions and get closer to their authentic self?
So good questions, very good questions. I think that people, the way they relate to feelings, because a lot of people have suppressed what they actually feel because they remained in connection, whether it was with their parents and then it was with their peer groups and then it was with people they wanted to fit in with because they wanted certain needs to be met, which is part of it. Connection is not just about connection. Connection is about, I get my love there. I get my validation. I get someone telling me how amazing I am. They appreciate me, or they respect me. They acknowledge me. And the ego says, hey, you got to be all this person, like even the people pleaser, for someone to give you all those emotional needs. Like do that. So people don't even know what it means to be authentic, or what it means. The next layer is to feel your feelings. They don't even know what they're feeling. You ask a guy, a typical person, especially a man over a woman, because men are driven by success. Right. The love hormone for men, I learned this not too long ago. The love hormone in general is called oxytocin. Women get oxytocin from connection. Men get oxytocin from success, achievement. It makes them feel like they're worth something. So they're going to have this love hormone secreted in their system saying, hey, you're in a state of love right now because you just accomplished something. So men naturally don't want that connection as much as women, even though they need it. But to get back to their feelings, I think the easiest way is, where are you being triggered in your life? Where are you feeling that, this is too much for me? You're experiencing something in your life that keeps on coming up. Could be with siblings, could be with parents, could be with relationships, could be with people in your company. I always like to say, wherever we go, we drag ourselves with us. So even if you think you've avoided the triggering situations in life, you're going to find them, because remember, that trigger is a guide back to your feelings, which is a guide back to where you have work to do, so you can feel like life just flows and be the authentic version of yourself, rather than the guy on the outside that says everything's good. So a trigger. The easiest way to get there, and we can do it right now, is where are you triggered in your life? And when I say where are you triggered, it's like, think of a relationship in your life that you feel frustrated about. Think of a relationship where you have a lack of freedom, where you can't express yourself. Think of someone you're frustrated at, a scenario. The more recent the scenario is, the easier it's going to be worked with, because it just happened. If you tell me something from 20 years ago, it's going to be hard to resurface that feeling. But feelings, the same anger that I feel today, same frustration that I feel today, is the same frustration that I felt as a kid. So generally it acts as a time machine, so it can take you from today, what you're feeling, to back then where it really started. Not that we have to get to where it really started, but just show all the patterns of how life reinforced that, you're triggered in this situation, triggered. It's showing me where I have unfinished business. The triggers are always unintegrated wounds. That's what they are. Unintegrated hurts. I was a kid. I gave the speech. I didn't believe I was good enough. My father told me that, even though he didn't mean to. And I carried that with me until basically in the last little while, like last number of years. So where's a trigger in your life? Tell me a relationship you have a lack of freedom, you feel frustrated, and go as personal as you want or not.
Well, I mean, we could, and I think the context for a lot of people is
you don't have to say the names also.
Yeah, is that we've been working together, and it's another thing that I preach to a lot of founders, or I think everyone, regardless if you run a business or you're an employee, it doesn't matter what you do for a living, but particularly founders, because you are the center of majority of the inputs of your business, right? Everything kind of flows through you. Even the largest companies with thousands of employees that I've been exposed to at the highest level, the CEOs, the owners, the founders, they know everything. Everything comes through them. And in a way, your growth, because a lot of people, they're trying to grow their business, become bigger, create better lifestyles, whatever it is, there's a goal in mind. The glass ceiling on that is typically the unfinished business that you haven't dealt with, that hasn't enabled you to push through it. And some of the most incredible founders on earth that I've met, probably a handful of them, I've been very fortunate. Moving to Miami has been one of the secret sauces because they're all here. They're still doing work. They're still fixing things. They're still looking within and questioning and trying to figure out why that happened, and taking what I call radical accountability for the things in their life. And it's been one of the most inspiring things that has been something that has constantly pushed me to continue to figure it out. You would believe, but a lot of people wouldn't believe, when I tell people, they go, oh, you sold your business, so now what? Why are you working? Why are you still working so hard and all this? And it's like, I feel so I feel so raw and unfinished. And I feel like that's probably the journey of an entire life. But I still feel like there's so many glass ceilings that I want to push through. And it's one of the reasons why I work with yourself and other people in different realms, which is why I help on the fitness side. I'm always trying to get deeper and understand what it is within me that's pulling me or pushing me away from certain situations. So yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So I think actually I had one this morning, actually. Oh,
perfect.
So it's fresh.
Right. Level 1 to 10.
So there's someone I'm working with in one of the businesses that I felt was not being fair to me. I think I felt, and I kind of did to do a check-in, because I had a conversation with them this morning. It was planned. And so all night I was kind of thinking about it. It's a big conversation, and where I had to communicate that I feel cheated and I feel taken advantage of, and a part of me was actually disappointed in myself, because how did I let it get to this point?
Disappointment in self. Okay.
That was my conclusion. My conclusion was, this bad thing happened because of me, and I am now aware. And if I choose to let it continue going, I'm self-inflicting pain.
Good. So now you walk away from this whole situation, and what are you left with? Being more guarded, right? Setting up.
That will never happen again.
That will never happen again. I make a commitment to myself. Why? Because if I stay consistent with that belief about life, then I won't get taken advantage again.
Correct.
Good. Okay. So first of all, I didn't fully explain it. So I want to just go through the layers so we can tell the viewers what we're walking through. The first layer is there's 4 layers. There's the circumstance, what actually happened. Like if we're looking into a camera screen, let's say you own a store and you're watching in a camera screen and you're seeing that a scenario is playing out and it could be there's captions there or subtitles that are showing you what's being said, but you can't tell the tone. You can't tell what the people are thinking. You can't tell the emotions behind it, and you don't know the deeper layer of what's really generating that experience. So there's the circumstance as it happened, 100% clean, that everyone agreed this is what happened. So we need to really make a distinction of what actually happened. The second thing is, what are my thoughts about what happened? How am I processing the information that's happening to me, or the scenario that's happening, you would say, for me?
So the information is the data.
So data or circumstance or facts. These are facts. Nobody can debate
this
them.
Is what happened. We all saw it. We all know it.
Yeah. And then, so if we go back now, what are the actual facts of what happened? This person did what? This person said what? What was the scenario that played out?
Oh, the scenario was very simple. We had an agreement for a set amount of work to get done. My agreement was to pay, and we agreed upon an amount to pay. The statement of work was, we agreed that you're going to do this work. Time went by. I paid. I didn't get the work. And that felt like, to me...
Okay, stop.
Oh.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the data.
And then what did you communicate to them?
Once, like today, this morning, I communicated. I did a check-in in the morning. I was like, how do I was still, for lack of better words, rattled.
Triggered, yeah.
Triggered. The feeling is consistent, disappointed in myself, all these things. And I said, this is what happened. I held up my end of the bargain. I paid. You did not hold up your end of the bargain. And I don't feel good about the situation. So moving forward, I'm going to take back control, and we're going to end this engagement. And if I'm being even more vulnerable in my head, I was like, I will never work with this person ever again.
Okay, fine. But that's not part of the circumstance.
That's not part of the circumstance. That was it.
We can't extract that from just what happened. We can extract just what you said, just what happened.
That's what I said. I laid out the situation.
Did he respond?
He had some excuses for what might have happened. And ultimately he felt like he held up most of the work, at least. But also, recognized that I'm right, and it was a boo-boo.
Okay, good. So that's the circumstance. Then my experience of the circumstance is circumstance through my mind. What was my mind telling me? Well, you already said. My mind was saying, I'm never going to work with this guy again. Mm-hmm. My mind was saying that he took advantage of me. My mind was saying, I need to step back in control. My mind was saying that I let myself down, right? These thoughts, these judgments about him, judgments about myself, because everything happens for a reason, right? Do you believe that?
I 100%.
Like we were talking about that just as
I believe, and I believe you have to look for it, but we'll get into that.
Yeah. So everything happens for a reason. So this scenario is not just happening because it's a random circumstance. This is happening because we need to learn something about Aaron. So Aaron processes certain scenarios by people take advantage of me, and he lets himself down. What do you believe about yourself when you make decisions like that? What's the thoughts, the judgments that you have on yourself for falling into those traps? And to become more aware, to go a little bit deeper, just as we do on a workshop, we close our eyes, we take a deep breath, and instead of looking for the right answer, find the right answer, because it's your answer. It's not the world's answer. It's not my answer. I'm not looking for something for you. I'm asking you to look within yourself. It's like, okay, so the guy didn't do it on time, and it wasn't exactly done perfectly, and this keeps on happening to me, or this is what happens when I don't take control. So who are you if people can take advantage of you?
I think my feeling is that I feel vulnerable.
Okay, but let's not go to the feeling yet. Mm-hmm. You feel vulnerable, meaning people can take advantage of me?
Yeah.
Okay, so who are you if someone could take advantage of you? Like, if you look in the world and you say, "This, everyone takes advantage of this guy," who is that guy?
Oh, that guy to me is weak.
Good. Mm-hmm. So there's a judgment about yourself that says, I'm never working with this guy again. Mm-hmm. Okay. Which is, I'm weak if I let this guy take advantage of me.
Correct.
So I'm going to shut that down so I don't have to face the belief that I might possibly have about myself, which is I'm weak. Mm-hmm. So in order to not face my own weakness, I have to flex my muscle and say, screw you, cut off relationships, and limit the people that I deal with, which seems more isolating rather than connecting, right?
Correct.
Okay, good. Now, what do you feel about the fact that you were taken advantage of and that you might possibly be weak in this situation? And feelings, when I say feelings, because that's the third layer. So there's circumstance, thought. Feelings are very simple. Happy, sad, mad, anxious. You could say frustration. Just like 5 basic feelings.
Yeah, I would say frustration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Frustration is a dumbed down version usually of anger.
Yeah, anger, frustration,
okay,
tension,
good.
Stress.
Okay, so now, remember when I was in that room before I went onto stage, I had to sit with the feeling. So the next part is we got to give space to the feeling, because that feeling that made you make a quick decision rather than, if I'm being flexible in life, which we all want to be flexible, we want to be able to do things, make a mistake and come back from them and work better. Like ultimately, the ideal situation would be this guy gets the message, you work through it, and he does a better job next time. That's ultimately because you stay connected to the person that you're working with, or, hey, I really appreciate what you did. It's hard for me to be in this situation because, my anxiety comes up around, not getting things done exactly right. But you want to leave that relationship with connection, not leave that relationship with severing. So what it's guiding you towards is what you really want out of all of this, which is not to change the circumstance. There's 2 wrong answers that the feeling is after. The 2 wrong answers would be, let's say I said, okay, I'm just not a public speaker. Screw this. I'm done. I'm walking away from this. It's not meant for me. This situation is not meant for me. Let someone else do it. Change the circumstance, change the feeling. So if you close your eyes, take a deep breath, and you tune into that anger, that frustration about he screwed you, he took advantage of you, you paid, he didn't deliver, and open your mouth for this one. So like breathe through your mouth. And what did that feeling really want? When you were feeling angry that someone exposed a certain weakness that you could be taken advantage of, what did you really want for yourself? And there's many layers to it. So don't try to be right. Just the first thing that comes up. You're feeling that anger. You're looking at him. You screwed me. You took advantage of me. You didn't deliver on time. I did my part. Where's your part? How come you can't do your part?
I would say like almost a feeling of like secure. Feeling of like security. Like what that anger wanted to have this person actually be on my team,
Yeah. Be on my team.
Mm-hmm.
Support me?
Yeah. Like,
Support me.
the anger is the expectation didn't meet the reality in a way. Like my
Okay.
expectation was to be on my team, support me, do what you say you're going to do. I'm going to do what I say you're going to do. We're a team. Let's make a deal. Let's hug it out. My expectation was like, kumbaya. We're both on the same page. Like, let's do this. There's so much good energy. And
Okay.
that wasn't the case.
So this is called, what did Aaron really want? What was his desire? Circumstance, thoughts, feelings, desires. What did you really want? Support me, be on my team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now here's the cool part. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and you look at your life. And just as you're feeling that, support me, be on my team, do your part. You know, I don't want to take on all this stuff. I feel weak over here. There's stuff going on for me. Can you feel that that's a familiar feeling in your life? That's a familiar pattern? Is this the first time that it happened? Is there other stories in your life where you wanted someone to support you when they weren't there for you? You don't have to find the exact moment.
There's like hundreds.
But you see that there's those
Connection.
those connections.
Mm-hmm.
Familiar feelings that are uncomfortable cause immediate reactions. Reactions come from coping mechanisms. Coping mechanisms came from that little child that needed to survive, so he needed to cope with life. Cut you off, screw you, you're done. That's a reaction. That's quick. In my mind, I'm saying all this stuff, but I'm telling you something else on the outside, but you're done. I'm never working with you again.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fight back, right? There's fight, flight, freeze, fawn. I'm fighting back strong, I'm shutting down, I'm freezing up, or I'm becoming the people pleaser. Those are all coping mechanisms that we don't want to, that's called living on autopilot. We don't want to live like that. We want to be able to reflect, if everything happens for a reason, why is this happening to Aaron? And if we could be really honest, the reason it's happening to you, it's because deep inside yourself, you wanted someone to support you growing up or be on the same team as you, whoever that was that represented that for you in your life, which we don't have to get super vulnerable, but we could really recognize that and say, hey, this person's just showing me where I'm weak. And that is not about this person. And that's not about the circumstance. It's about, what am I learning about myself from all of this? Where do I have work that I can grow from? So people say circumstances define you, or do you live your life that circumstances reveal who you really are? Because you can't control the circumstances. We try to. So how do you control the circumstances? Screw you, I'm done with you. I'm working with only people that are professionals. That's not called reality. That's called a laboratory way of living life. Like, I only let people into who can make the perfect concoctions and mixtures that make life work the way I need it to work, because I have met something that's challenging my own capacity for dealing with this situation.
Do you think it's possible for someone who's listening to this and thinking of situations in their life, circumstances that have triggered them, and they see themselves maybe a fight with a co-founder, or a client fires them, or, you know, there's so many things that happen to us on a daily basis. Not all of them trigger us, but the ones that do. Is there a way to work through this on your own, perhaps at home or with yourself in the car? If someone's curious, like, you know what, I could think back to a trigger. It happened actually this morning. It happened, and actually it's happening 5 minutes before I start listening to this podcast. Is there a way for them to work through this?
Good question. So let's say not about working through it. Let's say more about the first step of all working on yourself and becoming a better version of yourself, changing the script, changing the paradigm, is awareness. And awareness is acknowledging what is. The first step is, I'm feeling triggered. Just if all I tell you, and you walk away with this and you write down in a notepad, I felt triggered then, I felt triggered then, I felt triggered then, and you just keep a log of all the triggers. Those triggers are guiding you back to unintegrated parts of yourself that need work, that need healing, that need to feel okay again. So that's the first step.
Wow.
But, you know, relationship, it's an interesting one. Can we do it on our own? eventually, the more you do something, you can get better at it and you can start to do it on your own. But there's going to be blind spots. We all have blind spots because we love ourselves so much.
Yeah.
We want to believe the best about ourselves. So it's called, it's not even called self-love. It's called protection. I want to protect myself. Write down the triggers, and 2 people, your mother and your father, had you. Relationship birthed you. Relationship wounded you also, because someone wounded you. You didn't grow up on an island by yourself and no one was telling you how bad you are, this or that. So now I need to go back into relationship for the healing of that wound, because that's how it happened. There's a rule that however something happened, you almost have to go back into that same process to heal the same way it happened. So
that's a very powerful thing. I don't want to let you skip that.
Yeah.
However something happened, you have to go back into that process. And for whatever reason, sport just came into my head. And I remember an old coach of mine, and I'm curious if this is the right analogy. An old coach of mine, we would watch videos, after the game. This is where you went wrong. This is an opportunity you missed. And he took it the next step. So there was like an opportunity you would get, in hockey or whatever, like there was a specific shot that you missed. If it would have hit, we would have won the game. And instead of just putting it up on the screen and seeing it, and okay, yeah, I get it. I know I missed. I got it. Like next time I'll try to get it in. Great. Leave me alone. He was like, no, actually take a bucket of 100 pucks, go stand at the spot where you missed, and go relive it and work through it. Work through it till like you get to the point where you're comfortable, confident again back at that spot. Because I'll never forget, we have these things called, I don't want to get too much into hockey here, but penalty shots, right? Where you just one-on-one with the goalie. You're supposed to score them for the most part. And I remember that it was a really big tournament. I was about 9 years old, and I was the best, just not cocky guys. At 10 years old, I was probably the best player in the country. After 10, it went downhill. But at 10, and the coach said, Aaron, go score. Like everyone's like, yeah, he's going to go score. Of course he scores. It's Aaron. He's going to score. He always scores. And I missed. It was a move I always do. It always goes in, and the goalie just read it. It looked stupid, actually. It was the easiest save of all time for him. And the next 4 or 5 tournaments for like 2 years, penalty shots would come about, and I wouldn't even look at the coach. I'm like, don't choose me. Don't. I'm gonna miss. And we do it in practice. I wouldn't want to practice it. But looking back, it wasn't until I was 16 when I was like, I gotta get good at this. And I started like reliving it, where I would replay those moments in my head. I'm like, this penalty shot, this was that when I was 9 and I missed it. Like I'm gonna score now. And I had to go back and relive the feelings, relive the fear, almost rebuild the foundation of confidence. And is that what you're saying? Is like those moments, we can't just leave them and let it control us. We have to go back and relive it.
Yeah,
and finish it.
100%. I mean, like what happens when a quarterback in the NFL throws a pick? How do they come back from that? It's like the game's going and then they throw a pick, and you notice that a lot of these guys, even though they're training all day long, they throw another pick. And so what happened when you missed that shot for yourself is like, what got stuck there? Because I got to go back. Why do I have to go back there? Something was left unresolved. You believe something about yourself. Something was broken. You thought you had it, and the world said,
Exactly.
What'd you believe about yourself in that moment?
Oh, I believe that I wasn't as good as I thought I was.
Good. I'm not as good as I thought I was. Go a step deeper. I'm not that great.
Yeah, I'm actually not that good at this.
Good. And now I'm not that great lives inside you. It wasn't resolved. The coach didn't say, hey, that was a fluke. You really got this. You know what? Don't be so hard on yourself. I'm telling you right now, it happens to everyone. He didn't meet you with something that resolved that moment. He met you. He's like, yeah, you do suck.
Yeah, it was a common thing. I ruined the whole tournament,
Yeah, he reinforced it. Yeah. And then you had, every time you were faced with, should I take that shot, that penalty shot?
I didn't want to do it.
I didn't want to do it because that belief was still inside you. What'd you believe? I don't got it. I was good. If in that moment, and this is the craziest thing ever, but imagine in that moment, he would have helped you resolve that. You would have been in the NHL today, maybe.
Yeah, if you would have instilled Like, yeah, it's insane to think. And like, to stick on sport, Federer during his like commencement speech at a school, you must have seen this, when he shared that he won like just over 50% of his points, like just over. He pretty much lost every other point, but he won 80% of his matches. And it's like one of the most profound stats ever.
Yeah.
It's like one small mental breakdown for him would have changed the entire trajectory of his career. He's basically only winning just over half, but 80% of the matches. And to me, it's like in our lives, we're probably just winning 50% of our thoughts. Like we're playing both sides. I play both sides every day. Every day I play both sides. And it's the foundation, is the understanding, it's the ability to go a little bit deeper and understanding what is really here, so I can resolve it, so I can keep moving forward. That could be the difference between 50-50 on the day-to-day thoughts, but 80-20 on the life wins and losses.
Yes.
And that is what I find and that's why when people say, why do you do this work? Aaron, you sold your company this 8 years ago, you moved to Miami. Like, great, I get it. It's fantastic. I'm super grateful. God has blessed me every single day. I thank him for it. This is amazing. But I still feel every day is 50-50. Every day is 50-50. And I just said this earlier today, and I'll say it again. I'm really curious your take on this, because I know, I know you believe in God. I know you pray. I know you connect. And one thing that I started doing, and I'll share this, was I was just traveling and I got back to Miami and woke up in the morning, and for whatever reason, my my blinds were up. So the sun was like beaming in my eyes. I was like, wow, what an amazing day. I'm in Miami. Are you kidding? I got sun in my eyes. I wake up, make a perfect espresso. The crema was like unbelievable. I'm zipping on the Spro as you grab your coffee. I'm like, are you kidding me? I press a song. I meant to put the Sonos in my kitchen. My whole house lit up with Sonos. I was like, what? This is unbelievable. I'm jamming to the music. I have a paddle lesson. I turn onto the highway. No traffic. I'm like, are you kidding? There's always traffic on the bridge. My coach is there. I'm ripping paddle. What an amazing day. And I got 2 podcasts. What an amazing day. The other truth is, when I woke up, sun was in my eyes. I woke up 45 minutes before I wanted to wake up. Already could have been pissed. Are you kidding? How did I forget that? My espresso, the music was so loud, I didn't know that it was ready, and it burnt a little bit. It was a little bit hotter than normal. When I showed up to paddle, my coach was 8 minutes late. So now I had only 52 minutes with him. I could have been pissed. I paid him for the hour and I lost 8 minutes. When I got home, all my towels were in the wash. I had to use the towel from yesterday. What a horrible day. Both of those are true, 100% true. That's the 50-50. That's what are we going to tune into? What are we going to connect to? That defines the 80-20 of life. And I'm curious, as much as we want to go in and we want to dive deep, because we do, and I feel like there's so much work there, and that's why I continue to do the work. I don't even know how many years now, 7 years later, or whatever it is. 2019 was the workshop for 6 years.
March, yeah. And we're here in March.
Right? Magic.
Wow.
Right? Magic. What would you say? I really want people to take this away for them, because there's so much here and we can go so deep. If you were to make a recommendation to someone that, hasn't really done any of this work yet, what would you say is a great place for them to start?
So we started touching on it before, and it's that acknowledging what is. Just stop fighting against life and acknowledging what is. There's 2 things that are happening. There's what I want life to be like, and there's what life is actually like. Because you could have all the right things in your life, but something feels off inside, which is telling you that really, and this is what I believe, this is one of my biggest beliefs, is we actually don't have any problems. We have feelings that we don't want to feel. And so we try our best to create a life around not having to feel our feelings And people are chasing happiness. Why are they chasing happiness? You don't chase happiness because happiness is not something that's found on the outside. Happiness is a place that lives on the inside. Happiness is being able to be okay and feel good about any circumstance. That's what happiness is. And in order to do that, I have to work out some of the things that are not allowing me to feel happy, which are the feelings that I haven't worked through. And when you said, like, so what's the first step? Acknowledge that. Acknowledge that you feel like crap. Right. Acknowledge that you're feeling anxious this morning. Acknowledge that you're feeling something around your espresso being burnt or you waking up 45 minutes too early. Just acknowledge it, tune into it, because you're starting to have a relationship with yourself.
But would you recommend they for me, I journal, right? So the only time I actually sit there and say hey, what am I feeling? I have to carve that out. Otherwise things are coming at me all day. Mm-hmm. So would you recommend journaling, breath work, sitting there with it, talking to a friend, staring at yourself in the mirror, maybe all of the above, but what is the best place to start?
The best place to start is the one that speaks to you, that you're going to be able to accomplish the most. But first it starts with acknowledging what is awareness of self. What's going on for me? What's happening for me? What is this life that I've built? What's driving it? What's fueling my days? What's my why? But it's not just what's my why. It's what is going on inside of me that's not allowing to feel good about the life that I've created. Why am I running after more? Why do I need the next high or the next success? And slow down, take a deep breath, and look at your life. There's thoughts that come, says, oh, I need to get this email. Don't forget something. You're the thinker of that thought. So become the thinker of the thought that's coming out of you. Go into this meta view where you can see yourself. Look at your life. Part of what, if we really believe, and I said the soul knows, is there's a higher self. We don't have to call it the soul here because not everyone's religious or into spirituality, but the soul is that meta view where I can look at myself and see how I'm operating. I have that ability to rise above what my thoughts are telling me and tune into something more. The first way to do that is starting to have a relationship with your feelings. Feelings are those drivers. So why do two people in the same room have the same exact setup in the day, or even kids growing up from the same family have a totally different experience of life? Because everyone's experience is unique. And I just got to tune into my experience, not let other people tell me what life and experience is supposed to be about. We're looking so much for the external validation. We're looking so much how to live our lives based on how other people are living their lives. And you're losing the most massive opportunity, which is the whole reason that you're here is because, and the fact that you're born on the day that you're born, the day that you come into the world, is God, the creator of the world, is saying, you matter. And if I matter and he felt that he should create me, then I got to tune into who I really am and what my life is all about, and recognize when I'm doing that and feeling like life is flowing. I love my body. I'm going to the gym. Or when other people are guiding the way I believe that I need to live my life and what feels right and authentic to you. The older you get, the closer you come to yourself. I hope that's what happens for a lot of people. A lot of people have these awakenings that they turn around and look at their life like, who am I? We all have to have that moment. And I don't know what this guy's name is. That's
Ned.
No, the other one. He was saying that we gotta. It's almost like, everyone does these things. He said in the marriage, Patrick Ben David, how every year he says, we have to reanalyze why we're married and talk about.
Have a meeting. Do we want to do this?
Have a meeting. Do we want to continue this? Every year, people have at New Year's, they have this thing where they take on goals. I want to take on a goal. Why? Because we want more out of ourselves. We want more out of life. We don't necessarily feel like we've been living 100% how we want to. We want to grow. It's natural. We're here. Every living thing must grow. So we got to keep up with creation. So part of growing is not being stuck in the identity of who you have thought you are until now, but appreciating that who I thought I was until now is part of the process of who I'm becoming. So embrace your life as it is. Like if you would have been an NHL player because your coach would have been the best to you, then we wouldn't be having a podcast here and you wouldn't be changing the lives of so many people around you. So there's a certain gratitude of that's where I've been led, because circumstance could have said something different. It could have said that he figured you out and he helped you. And
that's the two paths, right? The one path would have been, he ruined my life.
Yeah.
And the other path is, I'm so grateful for that moment because I'm grateful for where I'm at. So it's very much the 50-50.
So if journaling works for you and you feel that it's vibing, keep on doing that. We got to feel connected to what we're doing. If breathing works for you, keep on doing that. If meditating works for you, keep on doing that. Take an interest in yourself and then you'll know what works for you. And sometimes you need people that are further on the work that have been, doing this for years to help guide you and come up with it. We need people to bounce ideas off of. We need that support. We need that guidance. Tony Robbins always says, why try to recreate things when you can stand on the shoulders of giants? Like there's people out there that have built success in many different ways, and we can follow those patterns, but make it unique, make it your own. And when you come into a business, like the Founders Club, let's say, you're coming in, you said this before, I'm coming in as myself. Every program and life journey that I've gone through, and I bring those elements into the business. The founder gives the culture to the company based on what he grew up with, who he is, what kind of mother he had, what kind of father he had, what kind of siblings he had, what kind of life circumstances played out. And we bring that into the company. So if you want the company to flow well, you have to feel like you're flowing with what you're doing. You have to love what you do. I think the most important thing for everyone in life is to learn how to love what they do. And it starts with loving yourself. It's like a general idea, like how do you love yourself? But how you really love yourself is being connected to that authentic, unique expression of what you represent in the world and who you are. And really taking whatever you've been given and using that as part of the masterpiece. Like you don't always see a painting when someone's painting it of how it's going to turn out. And you're looking at one part and you're like, that doesn't look so great because it's only in the middle of the picture. But eventually it all comes together and all those dots connect. And I needed to go through that. I need to go through this. I need to have that mother. I needed to have that father. I needed to go through this challenge, because that's all part of the process of me finding myself, because everything happens for a reason.
It's magic.
So to say that there's one way, like journaling or this or that, I'd say journaling is great. Breathwork's great. Meditation is great. For me, I wake up in the morning, I go to my culture ice bath every morning. That's
magic.
That's what I do. I go down, I'm like tired. I don't need my coffee. I need my ice bath. I go into my ice bath. Every cell of my body's alive. I feel physically energized. And then I go and I talk to God. I talk to God in my own way. I say my own little prayers. And then I go to a group of men where we pray in a public setting, because as Jews, we pray in a group of 10 people. And I do that. And that whole process of prayer and prayer in general is redirecting all my heart's desires to God and saying, hey, give me the guidance and everything that I need to go and face the life that I have.
Wow. And
all the anxieties and everything. If a person, and this is what I believe, if a person doesn't start with plugging in to the source of life, then I'm facing life in survival mode. Meaning I'm facing life as things come to me. Oh, what do I do here? What do I do there? But if I'm a channel of this divine mission, which is what fuels me every single day, is then facing challenges. I'm not doing it by myself. God's right next to me. He's there. He's with me.
What would you... Spirituality and business are very aligned and connected. But what would you say spirituality has... There you go.
Thanks, brother.
Pour some in there. What would you say... Like, what about your spiritual practice? What did it teach you about leadership because you've worked with many people, what would you say it taught you about leadership that potentially contradicts traditional wisdom?
Traditional wisdom says it's all on me. I got to make this work. And I'm a limited human being. I'm a limited person. I have a limited lifespan. I have a limited amount of hours that I can stay up during the day. I can't just stay up for 7 days straight without sleeping. We have limits. The limits are placed on us. And I think there's a great story. It's a biblical story where we don't necessarily understand that. You see, in life, you have a fire. You wake up with a fire for the day. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. That fire eventually burns out. And if it's self-generated, even more so, because life's going to hit you. There's 8 billion people. You're going to get triggers. Someone's going to smack you across the face. Someone's going to leave you as a client. Someone's going to say a nasty word to you. You know, my ex-boss, my ex this, my ex that. Everyone's going to try to get your attention. So, you know, you only have so much capacity that you as an individual can deal with. There's a story in the Bible that Moses, he went off into the desert. And he saw this burning bush. It's like, what's this burning bush? It's a bush that's burning, that's not being consumed. Like, it's kind of like a weird story. And, you know, he meets God in this burning bush form. And he says, you got to go and save the Jewish people from this Mitzrayim, this Egypt. And he's like, who am I? Me? I'm going to do this. And that story is the biggest life lesson about what it means to be a leader. So first is the burning bush, the bush that was being burned that wasn't being consumed. In life, when your fire is self-generated, when it's all on you, you're going to burn out because you're not connected to a much greater fire, which is God's fire. That God created me. And if I connect to God, I'm attached to his fire. So now me facing things, I'm a godly being. Well, I have to be connected to my godly source, my soul, people would call it today, in order to face things that seem much bigger than me. And the second thing is, he said, Mi anoichi, who am I? Moses, the greatest leader of all time, said, who am I? Why do you say, who am I? It's because he wasn't just really asking God, who am I? He was saying, who am I? I need to have a check-in with myself in this moment. Who am I that's showing up to all of this? Oh, where can I find the ability to face this? The ruler of the world at the time was Pharaoh, is recognizing that I'm a channel of God, of God's infinite light. And when God's on my side, no challenge is too big.
Wow.
They often say this saying, hey, we tell God how big our problems are. We want to pray. A lot of people pray out of desperation. My challenges are so big. And please help me and guide and take it away from me, God. Instead of telling God how big your problems are and how you need help from him, tune into how big you are in front of these problems that seem bigger than you. Recognize your greatness and your bigness. So when I'm connected to spirituality, I'm connected to my soul, problems don't become bigger than me. I rise in the face of my challenge and knowing that something is calling me into my greatness right now.
Wow.
Moses was called into his greatness. Anytime I've met a challenge in my life, and I can't say that I'm doing this right now every single active moment, because sometimes challenges really feel big.
Yeah.
But every time that I've met a challenge, greatness has come out of it if I've overcome it.
Yes.
It's almost like you need the challenge to find your greatness.
Yes.
We don't ask for challenges, but we need those challenges. We need those things where we feel stunted, where we feel like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do here? Because what you really need is humility. Humility says the person that you think you are is not even close to what you're channeling in this world. You're channeling God's presence. You're channeling the infinite ability to face anything. What is the definition of a soul? Infinity. Infinity means I can face and overcome everything.
That's a very powerful belief. On the topic of beliefs, and you know, there was a part of me that wasn't going to ask this question.
Shoot.
I might have just overhyped it, but if you could speak to
maybe someone or a person who believed in you maybe before you believed in yourself, perhaps someone who's maybe no longer here, what would you tell them about the impact that they had on your life's journey?
I go to this story, and it's a very emotional story. I remember I was 4 years in to school, university. And I had so much anxiety because I was going to become a doctor. I was going to take my MCATs. I was trying to gear up to that, but something about me wasn't letting me get the grades that I needed. And something about me wasn't letting myself tell my parents that I didn't want to be a doctor anymore. It was just like, it was so scary. And I remember I called up my parents on the phone. I said, I need you both on the phone. And I said to my parents, I said, I don't want to be a doctor. And my father says, okay, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. And he said to me, you can do whatever you want in life. I believe it. That moment literally changed everything about who I am today. So my father had this belief that I can do whatever I wanted to do in my life. I'll never forget that moment. And throughout history, continuing from those moments, I've had people that reinforce, but right there, that was it, because I was waiting for him. I wasn't waiting for anyone else. I was waiting for my creator, the one that brought me into this world, my father, who said, I want to have a family. I want to create. You're my son. And for so many years, I didn't feel that he believed in me, especially that speech story. That moment and all the weight of I need to be this, I need to be that doctor was my own weight. It was my own burdens of thinking I needed to be something in order to impress my parents. And he says, you can do whatever you want. It just felt like, wow, he believes in me. He really does. I felt it. And what was the question? What would I tell him? I'd say, Dad, you're my biggest role model in this world. And I go to you for reminding myself of who I am. Anytime I feel like I don't have that, like I feel like I can't do it. And he's there. And my mother and she's gone now. She's been gone for 6 years. But she, I don't know if she gave me the same belief about myself, but she definitely let me feel the fact that I'm loved. I'm a lovable person, because she always gave me that. I love you. She would always tell me, like, every single time that she spoke to me, I love you at every conversation. Or sometimes she would say this interesting thing like, did I tell you today yet that I love you? And to me, those two themes have fueled my ability to overcome and conquer anything in my life, any challenge. And I would say thank you to my father, to my mother, for doing the best that they could. And they really did. And yeah, we have stuff to work out always with our parents, but with the tools that they got, they did the best that they could. And they continue, my mother on high and my father in this world, to show me how much I need to believe in myself.
We had a guest on the podcast whose mother recently passed away. And he brought up something that I want to hear your perspective on. He mentioned that life, you don't fully understand life until a parent passes away. He said, because you come into the world and then that's all you know. And then you only get the full data set once they pass. You get the beginning to the bookend. What's your take on that? And what did you learn in your own experience?
They say this idea that real relationship is one-sided, because if you want to have a real relationship with someone or something, it has to be your internal feelings towards that. It can't be influenced by the outside. So it's part of the reason why I believe that God doesn't show himself. He's really looking for a real relationship. It seems paradoxical. Like, the more you're not there, the more I have to find him. When a parent passes away, distance makes the heart grow fonder. Then you have to really evaluate what was your love and your relationship with this person, because now they have no influence on the relationship because they're not here. So you end up, when you're lost, when you can't find them, when you don't see them, that's when you're lost, is specifically when you can start finding the relationship, when you can start reflecting on the relationship. And so that's a lot of what I was forced into 6 years ago when my mother passed away. In fact, the workshop that you're on, I wasn't even on that workshop, because a month later, my mother passed away. It was getting really bad.
Remember?
And that started my whole relationship to my mother, to understanding who she was, what she represented. And I called on her before this meeting. I pictured her giving me a hug. I pictured her being there and saying, "I love you so much. Did I tell you today that I love you?" And carrying that into my interactions, when we're just looking at, like, for example, life. If you look at my life and you say, holy crap, you work on yourself all the time. Let's just say, I don't even say that I do that, but I try to. I have 10 kids, married. I got this business where I'm trying to be there for everyone else. And there's a lot of responsibility of my community that I'm running. You know what it is to run a community.
Not easy.
And you're looking at this and you're looking at this mountain, like, it's so overwhelming. There's two things that you can do when you get to overwhelm. Is you can collapse and go back to, like, a coping mechanism, check out, whatever, or you can change your mindset. And if everything's on me, what does that make you? Well, that makes you a leader. That means right now I'm meant to lead. I don't have time to be a victim, to start thinking about how I need circumstance to change. I'm in the leader position. I need to go. I need to move. But you're looking at the mountain. You're like, holy crap, this is overwhelming. This is a lot. And I think that in order to build that $1 million business, that those 10 kids, this, that, it took 1 million steps to get here. And people forget about that. People forget that it took 1 million steps to get that $1 million business, and no one wants to do it. Everyone wants to be at the top of the mountain, but no one wants to do the work on what it takes to get there. So if you look at my life, it looks overwhelming because you're looking at the mountain, but you got to look at
just take the next step.
Just take that next step. It's like kind of like playing chess. It's like, you don't know, not every chess game is the same. You don't know what your opponent's going to do or what life's going to present you, but you need to know how to make the next move.
That's it.
Just the next move. That's what it means to be a leader. A leader says, okay, here's our next move.
Yeah.
And you fail and you lose the game sometimes. And you got to be okay with that. I yell at my kids sometimes. Okay. I go into a place of disconnection. I'm not meeting the needs of my whole community. Okay. You pick yourself up, you learn from it, and you move on. As a leader, you got to take responsibility. You got to be okay to take responsibility. You got to be okay to take ownership about whatever's happening around you is because of you. Because remember, you're the founder. An entrepreneur means, if I'm a founder, it means I'm stepping into the place in a certain sense of creator. I'm like God. That means you run the show. It means everything that happens is on you.
It's all on you.
So if you're going to step into the place of God, God owns his world. You own your world. You own your experiences. You own everything around you.
Magic.
Don't blame yourself, but own it. Know what your next move is.
Radical accountability for everything in your life. I feel like we can do like 4 hours. All right. I think we're going to need a part 2, but one last question. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And it's something that I unofficially have seemed to be asking everybody at the end, and it's been magical. Picture little Adam coming into the room now, tapping on the door, sitting down on the couch here, whatever age you picture. Sometimes it's 12, 8. I always find it interesting where they go. And you can share one message with the younger version of yourself. One message. What would you tell little Adam? He was here in the room with us for a brief moment.
So it's a 5-year-old kid. Generally, when I go into these meditations, 5 just keeps on coming up. I'm not sure why yet. One day I'll get there. My message to him is, know how much you're needed in this world, what you represent, and don't ever forget that. And that's my message. And when I wake up every morning, I say a prayer. It's a prayer like even right before I get out of bed. I thank God in Hebrew. I say, thank you for the gift of life and for trusting me that I could wake up to be able to go out and carry out the most sacred mission of what life has to offer, and to be grateful for it and to lead with that. Before I do anything, before I go take a piss, before I brush my teeth, it's thank you for the gift of life. See, how you start your day is how you end your day. So even if I got struggles going on, that's how I have to start every single day of my life. Is Moida'ani, I acknowledge you for trusting and believing in me. And if you believe in me, what the hell's my problem? So I want to believe in that kid. And then for the rest of the world, I want everyone else to be able to recognize and see the greatness of who they are and what they represent in this world. And that's my message.
Adam, I love you, brother.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to do this again because I think we have to.
We got it. This time it's going on air.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Founder to Founder podcast. And I have one favor, just one favor to ask. It's the only favor I'll ever ask from you. And if you liked what you listened to please like, subscribe, and please just leave a comment. Let us know what you think, how we can make it better. We are all in on delivering value to you. And all we ask in return is that you hit that subscribe. It goes a long way for what we're trying to build here. And as always, we post an episode every single Wednesday. So stay tuned and thank you for tuning in.